Hey guys, if you're enjoying the content I've been putting up, be sure to subscribe so you always know when a new video pops up. Now that we got that part out of the way, let's get into the video. Final Fantasy XIV is a massive game with thousands of hours of content. What I'm going to do here is break down some of the major plot points for those of you who want to know more about Eorzea, but may not have time to experience it all firsthand. This time, we're covering the story of the ninja. After dealing with the wannabe king of the pirates, not this one, and saving Limsa Lominsa and the admiral from being blown up, Jack lets you know that some of his men saw some suspicious looking people hanging around Wineport. The problem is they seem like simple refugees, but the way they're skulking around is a bit suspicious. They aren't breaking the code, but it's the Rogues Guild's job to make sure it stays that way, so Jack wants you to meet Underfoot in Wineport so the two of you can check things out. Underfoot's already been looking around, but all he's found are more questions. The refugees say they came from the South Sea Isles, but Underfoot's spies said that was a lie. No ship from the Isles has even come to Wineport, which means the two of you have some investigating to do, but a woman's screams make you change your plans. You run off to find a woman standing in the middle of three very dead men. She claims they had demanded she give them all of her stuff, but when they saw how little she had, they fought over it, leading to the scene you walked up on. Underfoot warns her about the dangers of traveling alone and how she may not be so lucky next time. As soon as she leaves, Underfoot lets you know just how little he believes their woman's story. There are far too few marks on the fallen men for them to have fought each other. Since she's obviously hiding something, the two of you follow her to see if you can find out what's really going on. On her trail, you pass another group of fallen men who at first glance seem to be simple peasants, but after seeing their weapons, Underfoot knows the men are no beggars. One of them is still alive, and he begs you to take a small stone back to two people named Oboro and Tsubame before he dies. The two of you track the woman to Upper Lenosha where she's hiding behind a tree. Why do people think that's ever a good place to hide? She's shocked to see you, but before you can question her anymore, a ninja dressed in red leaps out of a tree and taunts the woman for thinking that putting on peasant clothes would hide her from him. Being the hero that you are, you step in between them, but the red ninja reveals that the woman is more than capable of defending herself, which she proves by pulling out some knives and charging the man. Her attack is stopped when a shuriken flies in between them and a ninja in blue named Oboro somersaults in. He calls the red ninja Karasu, and they were apparently friends when they were younger, although their personalities couldn't be more different. Karasu acts like he's partaken in all of the drugs, while Oboro seems to have a large stick wedged in a very uncomfortable orifice. Chastising you for being in other people's business, Karasu throws a shuriken at your face, but with your training and a bit of bullet time, you dodge it with little effort, which intrigues the psychotic shinobi. Since you might prove to be useful, he decides to let you live before he tosses a smoke bomb and vanishes. I still want to learn how that works one day. With Karasu gone, Underfoot wants some answers, starting with why was the woman in Wineport in the first place? Oboro has heard of the rogues, and he apologizes to Underfoot for not coming to meet with you all when they first arrived, but he is more than willing to explain the situation. He and Tsubame are shinobi from Doman, which is very far away and currently under Garlean rule. They had fought the Garleans, and they would have kept them out of their lands if they hadn't been betrayed by one of their own. All of their tricks and strategies were told to their enemies, and thousands of their people were killed, leaving Doma in Imperial hands. The traitor was the ninja Karasu, and the elders of Oboro's village have sent him out to execute the traitor for his crimes. While they tracked the rogue ninja down, he killed a lot of their friends before he escaped. That reminds you of the soul crystal that Oboro's fallen ally had told you to take to him. It's their tradition to store the crystals of the fallen in their village so they can be with their ancestors, but when the crystal resonates with you, Oboro believes it's a sign that you are supposed to fight with them. He decides to make you an offer. You will work with them to hunt down Karasu since you know the land, and in return he will teach you their art of ninjutsu. Tsubame protests since you aren't a Doman, but with so many of their allies either dead or severely injured, they don't have much of a choice. Underfoot doesn't want to see you leave the rogues, but he admits that if he were younger, he'd want the ninja training too. Oboro tells you where to meet him if you decide to join them, which of course you will. Since he found out the newcomers weren't breaking the code, Underfoot heads back home while you make your very obvious decision. When you show up at their base, Oboro is more than happy that you decided to take him up on his offer, despite the fact that it's forbidden to teach outsiders their craft of using ninjutsu, which is basically another form of channeling ether to perform techniques that are dictated by hand signs, or mudras. Being who you are, you take to Oboro's lessons pretty fast, mastering the first mudra with only a bit of training, something that Oboro is very surprised to see happen. But that's a good thing, because it gives you more time to teach him about Eorzeans and their strange horse birds. Since you learned the first mudra so quickly, Oboro begins teaching you the second. As before, you take to it like a duck to water, causing Oboro to grant you the rank of Chunin. As per his traditions, he takes you to a waterfall to celebrate your talents with another intense training session. At a place called the Fool's Falls in Lenosha, Oboro gives you a bit of information about his people. They don't worship the 12 like the people of Eorzea. Instead, they believe their gods are all around, existing in every part of nature from the trees to the water. Focusing on nature helps clear your mind of all else and improves your control of your mudras. He wants to put you through a few exercises, but before you can really get into it, Karasu shows up. He taunts Oboro about being so predictable that even in a strange land, the spot where he would take his new apprentice was obvious. But that turns out to be a good thing, because you get to have some hands-on training, which Karasu is more than happy to give you. He fights you for a little while before he runs off and lets some of his imperial subordinates deal with you. They are good, but between you and Oboro, they fall quickly. He apologizes for not anticipating Karasu's attack, but since the strange shinobi seems to be interested in you, Oboro decides to tell you everything. He and Karasu grew up together, and both trained under a man named Master Gakkai. Karasu was one of the best shinobi in the area, way better than Oboro, but that only made him train harder to catch up. Despite the fact that Karasu did whatever he wanted, never really thinking about whether his actions were right or wrong, Oboro still thought of him as a brother. Until the day that Doman Castle was taken by the Garleans. Someone had betrayed them, and as Oboro walked among the corpses of his friends, he saw Karasu running away. He was the traitor, and his actions led to the deaths of nearly all of the shinobi, even Master Gakkai himself. It looked like Karasu had taken pleasure in killing Gakkai because the man was beaten so badly that he was hardly recognizable. Oboro figured that he would be able to find out why Karasu turned on them when they fought again, but now he has even more questions, like why didn't Karasu kill the two of you at Fool's Falls instead of deciding to test you? However, that doesn't change the fact that he has to die for his crimes against Doman. However, as good as he knows Oboro and Tsubame, it'll be hard for them to best a rogue ninja, but having you there, someone Karasu knows nothing about, could give them an edge no matter how small. But you'll need to be way stronger before you can do that. And to improve your skills further, Oboro believes you need more practice in the field, and you will get it by helping track down Karasu yourself. Oboro has gathered a bit of intel that should help with that. Captain Grimowill of the Bloody Executioners has managed to dodge a handful of assassination attempts over the last few days, and since the target is someone that most people wouldn't even be able to get close to, he thinks it has to be Karasu and his men. And since the only thing that stops a ninja from bringing down their target is death, Karasu will definitely try again. So if you find out where and when, then you'll find Karasu. He's found someone who can help with that too. One of Grimawill's lieutenants named Wolfston enjoys bathing at the hot springs of Camp Bronze Lake, so you head there to find him. Oboro is pleased to see that so many Eorzeans enjoy one of the simple pleasures of his homeland, public bathing. How that's a pleasure is beyond me, but to each his own. But with so many people at the resort, it won't take long before they notice the foreigners, which makes it hard to be stealthy. So instead of wandering around, Oboro decides you should stand watch from atop one of the buildings until your target arrives. When Wolfston shows up, Oboro comes up with a plan to use bamboo breathing pipes to hide underwater and eavesdrop on the man's conversation. I don't know how he thought that would work in broad daylight in a place with water as clear as glass, but fortunately Tsubame has a little bit more of a location-friendly plan. One that just needs a change of clothes for her and a few bottles of alcohol. Since both she and the warrior of light are attractive women, the men will be more than willing to accept drinks from them while Oboro watches out for them from above. Despite the talk of public bathing being common in Doma, Tsubame seems a little bit uncomfortable in her bathing suit, but she does a job of slipping something in the liquor bottle that will definitely make Wolfston lower his guard and start talking. A little bit of drinking and flirting from Tsubame gets Wolfson to tell you that his captain's in L-Port. I can't lie, the way Tsubame manipulated him was so well planned out that I am 100% positive that while Oboro can fight better than she can, espionage is definitely her specialty. With this new information, the three of you rush off to L-Port because Karasu is undoubtedly already there. Sure enough, when you arrive, Oboro points out that the people you see walking around dressed like dock workers are Imperial shinobi in disguise, meaning Karasu is definitely there because he doesn't leave his missions in the hands of his henchmen. The three of you split up so you can track the rogue ninja down before he gets away. You find him on the docks, and he's actually surprised that you managed to sneak up on him. He and his flunkies fight you, but in the midst of the fighting, Karasu manages to get away yet again. So it's back to your base to once again work on tracking the shinobi down. Oboro had always known Karasu was strong, but he seems to be getting even stronger every time you fight him, which makes him wonder just what kind of training he's doing since he came to Eorzea. But stronger or not, Oboro's mission hasn't changed. He has to kill the man, otherwise it'll mean his own death. That's the only way a shinobi is allowed to fail a mission. While that sounds a bit grim, one good thing has come from all of this. You've grown so strong in the arts of the ninja that Oboro believes it's time for you to receive the ancestral gear of the shinobi that you've seen him and Tsubame wearing. He's already had the Rogues Guild send word to his village to get a set delivered, since if he sent for it himself, Karasu would probably have found out about it and caused a problem. The gear is being delivered to the Deneville checkpoint, and the carrier knows you're on the way. When you get there, however, someone's already picked up your shipment and left a message that they'd pay good money to the person who murders the next person that shows up to ask about it. The fact that the porter talked to you before sicking his bodyguard on you is exactly why the guy ended up dead. Why do villains think it's better to monologue before killing the hero? Something I'll never understand, but seeing how easily you dealt with his bodyguard freaks out the porter and he goes to run away, only to be finished off by Karasu, who just appears out of nowhere. Ninjas have a habit of doing that. He heard about the shipment despite Oboro's attempts at secrecy, and he decided to take a peek. When he saw the shinobi gear, he decided to take it and see if you were really ready for it. He took 4 pieces of the gear and put them in crates in different places. Then he set 4 of his people to guard them and told them that if you take it from them, they'd better be dead. If you can get your gear without dying, then you deserve to have it. He tells you where they are before he vanishes again. You could just go home, but let's not pretend the Warrior of Light wouldn't do anything for glamour. So you travel around Eorzea retrieving the gear and taking down Karasu's minions before returning to where he'd first appeared. Instead of Karasu, Oboro shows up. He was worried when you were gone for so long and he decided to come and find you. When you tell him what happened, he can't believe that Karasu came after you on your own. Why that's a shock to him is beyond me, but okay. He does find it strange that the man didn't kill you when he could have, but decided to test you again. It's strange, but not as strange as the scroll that he left on the ground for you. In it he claims that he left a present for you and Oboro back at your base, and knowing that Tsubame and Oboro's other allies are still there, the two of you rush back. You arrive in time to see signs of battle. One of Oboro's friends is in shock, and Tsubame is gone. You find her not far away, injured and kneeling, with Karasu boasting about how he tortured her. Oboro is furious, which is what Karasu was going for. And to make it worse, he taunts him about how he couldn't save his countrymen before when the Garleans attacked, and even with all of his training, he still couldn't help his friends. That's the last straw, and Oboro attacks. This time, Karasu has no intention of running away. This time, it'll be a fight to the death. With the two of you fighting together, you bring Karasu to his knees. Finally, Oboro prepares to execute the traitor who led to the destruction of his home, only for Karasu to reveal that he's not the leader of this group of Imperials, nor is he the traitor. He wasn't the only one who ran away from Doman, and he wants Oboro to think back to all of the dead he saw that day, and who was in the pile of bodies that was hard for him to identify. There was one person that he had assumed dead, but his face was so badly mangled that it was unrecognizable. The traitor wasn't Karasu at all, but their master Gakkai. Oboro doesn't believe him since he saw Karasu running away when it was all over, but the reason for that was simple. He had felt something was odd about his master's death, so he left the village to find answers, only to find their master alive and well. The man had given him 2 options, follow him or die. Since Karasu was a fan of living, He'd rather live as an Imperial spy than die to stay loyal to a fallen nation. He doesn't care if Oboro believes him or not, since he's a dead man either way, but he tells you to go to Candlekeep Quay if you want to know the truth. As his last words, he tells Oboro that whatever he decides to do, tradition or not, he better make sure he stays alive. He's too noble of a man for anything else. Before Oboro can make any move to stop him, Karasu leaps into the air and detonates a grenade in his own hand. Despite the mission being over, Oboro doesn't know what to make of Karasu's last words or his revelation about their master. But before he can worry about any of that, Tsubume's injuries need to be treated. Once she recovers, it'll be time to head back to Doman, but Oboro doesn't want to leave without seeing if there was any truth to Karasu's words. Regardless of what he wants, he's a shinobi and he has to follow orders. Those orders demand that he heads back home since his mission is finished. Whether his master lives or not is irrelevant. It's time to go. He just wants a little time to gather his thoughts before he heads out, and he asks you to look after Tsubume while he's gone. Turns out Tsubume's not as badly injured as you had thought. Karasu hadn't really been trying to do any damage. All he had been doing was trying to tick off Oboro. But Oboro knew that, so him asking you to watch her seems a bit suspicious. Since he always likes to think near waterfalls, Tsubume figures he's heading back to Fool's Falls. She's noticed how conflicted he's been over Karasu's last words, and she sends you off to check on him. He's exactly where you expected him to be, and since you came to find him, he finally admits that he's more conflicted about what he should do than what he puts on. Before the fight with Karasu, he had never questioned his people's customs or traditions. He ignored his own wants and desires and focused only on following orders. But when he saw Tsubume hurt and remembered all of his dead friends, his desire to get revenge in his own way came back. Now he's decided to go and see if Karasu was right about their master being alive and being the real traitor so he can avenge his friends. Since this isn't an official mission, he won't ask you or Tsubume to join him. There's no reason for you to put your life at risk for his revenge. He teleports off to finish his personal mission, and you notice that Tsubume had followed you. Mission or not, she has no intention of letting Oboro fight his master alone. She's going to help him, and she wants you to come too because Master Gakkai makes Karasu look like a white belt. You've been fighting with them for so long, there's no real reason to abandon them now. So the two of you head off to the last location Karasu mentioned, Candlekeep Quay. You check with one of the guards when you arrive to see if there's been any unusual things going on. Other than a private ship being scheduled to dock at dawn, everything's been pretty normal aside from a milkmaid coming and asking the same question you did not that long ago. Tsubume lets you know that the milkmaid is one of Oboro's favorite disguises, which means he's already there. Instead of skulking around looking for him, she thinks it's a good idea to lay low until Gakkai shows himself. The two of you split up with Tsubume watching the shoreline while you take the high ground. From your vantage point, you see Oboro confront his master, who is indeed alive and working for the Empire. He wants to know why he turned traitor, what caused him to abandon his own people and leave them at the mercy of the Empire. He claims he did it for the village. Shinobi are no different from mercenaries. Switching masters for the best price is what they do, and since his skills were in such high demand, he was able to ask for a high price. It was for that reason that when the Doman rebellion was annihilated by the Garleans, Oboro's village was left alone. He doesn't feel he should be labeled a traitor. He should be revered as the hero who saved his people. Oboro thinks the Domans who died that day would see things a little bit differently, but Gakkai doesn't care. People die every day, but shinobi are valuable. That's who he cares about. That one line is enough to set Oboro off, and he vows to kill Gakkai to avenge his fallen friends. Gakkai is more than happy to let him try, but his time in Garlemald has let him make quite a few friends, and he sees no reason to fight Oboro alone. But of course Oboro's not alone either. The Warrior of Light and Tsubume join in, and together you all face off against Gakkai and his men. Gakkai uses powers that Oboro had thought lost to time, and summons physical manifestations of mudras to fight alongside him. Still, against the three of you he's overpowered. With the battle done, Oboro thanks the two of you for helping him bring down Gakkai, and he even thanks Karasu, who he vows to never forget, only for the Red Ninja to show up behind you, alive and well wearing regular clothes. How he faked the death we saw is beyond me, but there are weirder things happening in Eorzea. If he wanted to get away from Gakkai that bad, he could have just joined you to help kill him, but at least he did bring the last piece of your shinobi gear with him. He goes to leave, but Oboro lets him know that now that they know the truth, the elders should remove the death mark on him and let him come back to the village. He's being naive. While Karasu wasn't the traitor, he did follow him, and that counts the same in the eyes of the elders. And they're right. Karasu is well aware of the fact that his few good deeds don't remove the fact that he was both a spy and an assassin. Two things that he wants you to remember he is very good at. And he's killed almost as many people as Gakkai, including a lot of people Oboro brought with him when he first came to Eorzea, which is the whole reason he was training you in the first place. How in the world could he have forgotten that so fast? Karasu tosses Oboro his soul crystal so he can take it back to the village as proof that he completed his mission and dealt with the traitor. Oboro vows to change the village to a place Karasu will be proud to call home before the other shinobi heads off. This gave me serious Naruto and Sasuke vibes, which is not a good thing. It's bad enough that Naruto was willing to ignore all the bad stuff that Sasuke did just to try to bring his friend back to the village. Now Oboro's doing the same thing. With everything over and done with finally, Oboro thanks you for your help, but instead of going home like he's supposed to, he decides to stay in Eorzea for a while to learn more about its culture, while Tsubame reports back to the elders and makes some excuses for Oboro's slow return so they don't brand him a traitor and send someone to kill him. As for you, it's time for you to return to your other duties until Oboro calls on you for another assignment, which could happen very, very soon. This concludes the first part of the ninja storyline. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on the next part of the story.